Why do they all want to know?
He's a police officer.
Do you own one or do you know someone?
My friend knows.
Do you know why he owns it?
So he collects and on.
How about you? I'm Jacqueline. You do? What do you use it for? Honey. Good. Has anyone else considered ever owning it? Oh, you own one too? Why do you own one? Oh, where I used to live at, just like the area I used to live in. That's good. Anyone else ever considered owning one? Well, whatever your answer may be, the events I'm going to tell you about might have helped shape your beliefs about them. Do you remember February 16, 1988, when Richard Wade Farley shot 7 employees at a Sunnyvale computer company? He was upset about being laid off from his job. And on January 17, 1989, Patrick Purdy raped an elementary schoolyard in Sacramento, killing 5 children before he shot himself to death with a pistol. He had a bitter obsession with war. Who do you blame for these violent crimes? Do you blame the gun shops that sell to lawful citizens, or do you blame our poor criminal justice system? The real lesson to be drawn from the Purdy crime is that Purdy was a criminal who should have been in jail rather than let free to roam the streets. Let me read you what Purdy was arrested for. Prior to the schoolyard massacre, Purdy had been arrested for drug possession, illegal possession of dangerous weapons, receipt of stolen property, attempted robbery, criminal conspiracy, firing a pistol in a national forest, and resisting arrest. He was charged with felonies, yet they all had been reduced to misdemeanors through plea bargaining. 7 times arrested, 7 times free. I'm not here to tell you about Patrick Purdy, but I'm here to make one point clear. Through the example of how poor our criminal justice system is, banning guns is not going to repel violent crime. Banning guns will only create a larger black market for those criminals. But many gun control advocates still have been fighting this topic for years and still continue to. But it's about time they take a good look to the root of the problem. I'm not a gun owner right now, but I've considered owning one for self-protection. You're probably asking yourself right now, if not later in this presentation, how we would fight crime if not through gun control. Well, the answer to that question is easy as sewing a button to a shirt. Our nation's capital arrests 40,000 people each year for serious crime, but only 10,000 of them are in jail. The other 30,000 wander the streets, committing more crime. This is only in one state. The nation should keep criminals in jail, or maybe develop a rehabilitation center for these criminals to teach them what is good and what is bad. But to let them roam the streets, committing more crimes, gives us a lot to be worried about. We need tough prosecutors, tough judges, and more prison time. Guns interested me when I went target shooting and skeet shooting not too long ago. And as a matter of fact, I'm going hunting this Saturday in Oregon for the first time in a long time, probably like 10 years. Before that, I was scared of guns, and as a matter of fact, I associated them with violence. But after reading through magazines and newspapers and looking into the controversy behind gun control, I decided to stand on this side. Anyway, when I was younger, my grandfather used to take me hunting. And he used to hunt with his grandfather as well, so it's a family memory. But for men in particular, guns evoke a time when they could spend time with their fathers and grandfathers walking through the mountains alongside a dirt road and long-lost hunts, you know, in the dark till the sun rises. These men have the right to cherish that memory. Gun ownership is an inalienable right guaranteed by the Second Amendment. Let me read you that Second Amendment. It says, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. The late sociologist Herman Kahn said guns are right at the center of our culture. As a matter of fact, in 1624, a Jamestown, Virginia survey counted a firearm for each colonist. And today, 50 to 60 million households, about half the total of those households, owns a gun. But Americans own guns for several reasons. Number one, hunters like to escape the concrete jungle. They like to be in the mountains and wilderness hunting wild animals. Target shooters like the calmness, the self-control, and the discipline involved in shooting. Engineers who design these weapons see the technology and group impact in these weapons. And people who collect guns see beauty and craftsmanship in guns. Therefore, you can see that affection runs deep in the American side for these guns. But more importantly, half of the American population of gun owners say self-protection is their primary reason for owning a gun. People feel they have to protect themselves because basically they've lost their confidence in the ability of the local government to control crime. And women feel especially vulnerable to violent crimes like rape, for example. Dr. Alan Krug, an economist at Pennsylvania State University, updated a 1967 study and found that when lawful citizens owning guns increases, violent crime decreases, suggesting that gun ownership will possibly deter crime. I'm going to read you a few statistics provided by Time magazine. 56 of criminals agreed with this statement. A criminal is not going to mess around with a victim if he knows the victim is armed with a gun. Another 60% say they are more worried about running into an armed victim than they are about running into the police. And 75% of criminals surveyed said they avoid houses when people are home because they fear being shot. Therefore, you can say that a gun control law will only make a criminal's ultimate goal of committing a crime more promising. A criminologist from Florida State University, his name is Dr. Kleck, conducted a study called Crime Control Through the Private Use of Armed Force. He concluded a gun control law will only make he concluded that robbery and assault victims who used firearms for protection were less likely to be attacked or injured than victims who responded in any other manner. Then he said that only 12% of those using guns to resist assault suffered any kind of injury. But that small percentage of people were uninformed, were unfamiliar with using a gun. So another study shows that if America should implement a mandatory public citizen gun training course, then that would decrease the amount of criminals committing crimes. The National Rifle Association offers a 12-hour handgun familiarization course throughout the country to lawful citizens. This helps promote gun safety, and gun training is only part of the solution to the problem. Here's the larger part of the solution. Anti-crime measures. They're the way to conquer violence, not anti-gun measures. A gun control law will only disarm gun collectors, hunters, and recreational shooters while leaving guns in the hands of criminals. Regulations like waiting periods for checking the background of a gun purchaser would limit gun ownership in areas where hunting and target shooting are a way of life. For example, Purdy had bought a semi-automatic rifle in Oregon and then was cleared through California's 15-day waiting period when he purchased a pistol. Yet he still obtained the gun. The U.S. Attorney General's task force said that because of the unkept condition of the nation's criminal records, quote, a truly effective check would take at least 1 month. A 7-day waiting period has only a 50-50 chance of screening out felons. This shows how a 7-day and even a 15-day waiting period is worthless because it shows no decrease in crime rates. Also, the U.S. Attorney General says a waiting period will not prevent criminals from obtaining firearms because felons obtain guns through many illegal unlicensed forms. His task force went on to say that 5/6 of all criminals acquire guns illegally. Plus, you have to understand that most criminals go, like John Doe, for example, can go over to Bob Smith's house next door without the government ever knowing and purchasing a gun. It goes from hand to hand border to Mexico and buy a gun there, where there are no laws. Therefore, a criminal can usually even obtain a fake identification with ease, and obtaining a gun is as easy for a criminal as going to the bakery and buying a bread and muffin. Gun control advocates say they want to ban only assault rifles, which are automatic machine guns. They say they don't intend to restrict hunting rifles, but the bans they're talking about could affect semi-automatic hunting rifles owned by 30 million people. Therefore, their ultimate goal is to ban all guns. You see, true assault rifles, the automatic machine guns that everyone's talking about should be banned, they're already regulated by law. Stricter laws are not going to decrease the crime rate. Those laws are there. Gun control advocates also want to limit the size of ammunition in rifles. These propositions have nothing to do with preventing violent crimes. Richard Cornwell, a lobbyist that opposes stricter gun control, summed it up this way. It's a mistake to differentiate between good guns and bad guns. He says any gun is lethal in the wrong hands. Very true. Therefore, there is no correlation between firearms laws and crime rates, but only between socioeconomic factors and crime, because it's within our society. Once again, the solution is to place America's money where its mouth is, in the criminal justice system. Studies say that 75 to 85% of urban violence is committed by career criminals that do this for a living. And 30 to 35% of crimes are committed by criminals that are on some form of release, like bail, probation, parole. Because of prison overcrowding, the release of just one criminal results on the average of 187 additional felonies a year, costing us $430,000. Okay, that was provided by American Riflemen. But on the other hand, it would cost only $25,000 a year to confine that same criminal, an expense well worth the added public safety benefits. I urge you to support criminal justice reform measures, and I urge you to support your right on the gun. The problem with gun control advocates is that they believe that banning guns will eliminate violent crime, but criminals tend to get their guns illegally anyway. While handguns are used in about 590,000 crimes yearly, they are used to protect against 650,000 crimes. The solution to combat crime? America must look at its revolving door system of justice. Removing dangerous felons off the streets clearly results in a reduction in crime rate. A portion of our federal spending should be to keep these criminals behind bars. But taking guns away from the 98% of law-abiding citizens will not disarm the 2% of criminals. The nation needs tough laws that put criminals behind bars, mandatory sentencing for violent felonies, no probation, no parole, no plea bargaining, tougher bail restrictions, capital punishment for murderers, more prison space, more prosecutors, more judges, and finally, to reform our court procedures. Gun laws will not prevent crime. They will only remove our rights as law-abiding citizens. Penalties against criminals must be imposed immediately after a crime to preserve the innocence basic to our system of justice. Remember, gun control only means one thing. That's hitting their target.